Hi, I'm Cameron. I don't just read comics, I love them, and welcome back to another episode of Cameron Reads Comics. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the Uncanny X-Force Omnibus by Rick Remender. So this Omni collects Uncanny X-Force 1 through 35, plus like a lot of tie-in issues. I'm a member of a lot of like online omnibus groups on Facebook, and I've probably heard more about this book than any other book, and I've been on a big X-Men kick lately, so I knew that this was something that I needed to pick up. For accessibility, it references like a lot of stories. The first, I'd say, being Age of Apocalypse. I've never read that run, but I think I understand enough X-Men lore to be just fine with all of it. If you have like a fundamental understanding of the Age of Apocalypse, who Apocalypse is to the X-Men, I think you can go right through this Omni just fine. I'd say it also references the new X-Men run. I really like Phantom X, and his first appearance is within the new X-Men book. And I just read that omnibus, so I'd recommend reading that before you read this. I think I'm learning there's more X-Men than just Claremont's, but I think reading Claremont's run is going to be incredibly helpful for you. Otherwise, I didn't really know what was going on with the rest of the X books at the time this was coming out, so you can start here just fine and be totally good. So a quick beat about Rick Remender. I think he's one of the most like punk rock writers in comic books right now. I think his run on this title changed X-Force forever. I found Rick Remender because of Deadly Class, and that book like sunk its teeth into me and just hooked me so well. So my favorite parts of that book are translated like into this, and I just think that's the Remender of it all. And so I highly recommend everything he writes. He's half the reason I also picked this up, other than the recommendations, because I read his other work and I know he kicks ass. I just like largely consider this book like punk rock, R-rated X-Men, and that is so cool. Largely, this book is about the X-Force, a covert strike team for the X-Men, and they set off to do things that like aren't very nice. The team is Wolverine, Archangel, Psylocke, Phantom X, and Deadpool, which is a really interesting team. I was nervous about Deadpool being on this team because I'm not a huge Deadpool guy, but I thought that it worked out really well. The parts of Wade that they showed were really wonderful. I think he's a hard character to write, so I liked what I saw here. Eventually, these other characters joined the team. Nightcrawler, specifically the Age of Apocalypse version, and then Deathlock joins the team. This is my first exposure to that character, so I thought it was really cool. So here are the main story arcs for this run. First arc, Apocalypse has been cloned as a child, and the X-Force must decide whether or not they're going to let him live. It's kind of like the idea of, would you kill baby Hitler when you know what evil he has potential for, but also he's a child, he hasn't done anything wrong yet. The decision they make ties into the rest of this series in a really big, interesting way. There's an arc with Deathlock right after this. I didn't know anything about Deathlock going into this series. And Esad Ribic did the art for that book. It was absolutely incredible. It just hooked me. It was like friggin' pedal to the metal. Awesome, fast, quick run. And then I'd say the main run for this entire series is the Dark Angel Saga. It is like a 16-issue arc. The X-Force travel across time and space for this like Romeo and Juliet space opera, cosmic odyssey battle, forbidden love between Archangel and Psylocke. Specifically note that this is Archangel and not the regular Angel from the original X-Men. The influence of Apocalypse on Angel's form, think of it like a symbiote Spider-Man kind of thing, where he doesn't like who he's becoming and he lashes out and he's potentially evil and Psylocke's trying to help him. It's just this crazy, like they're trying to make it work. Can they make it work? And how does that kind of thing come to a head? I haven't heard any interviews or read anything about Remender talking about this arc, but for me, my understanding, I think it was one of the best homages to the Dark Phoenix saga I've ever seen, and obviously that's why they named it that, and I think that's why it spanned the duration it did, and I think that it was so well done. That's an arc, the Dark Phoenix saga, that's chirped on so much, but this one was like, whoa, it was a perfect homage because it had the soap opera aspect that I think works so well with the X-Men. The art in this book was just absolutely blockbuster. It was a murderer's row of talent on this book. They just had like every single blockbuster in Marvel's bullpen like come and do an arc on this book. There wasn't like a main series artist. Like there's so many names. Just name a few. Esad Ribic. Rafael Albuquerque did an issue on this. Mark Brooks did interiors. I didn't even know Mark Brooks does interiors. I only see covers from him now, and it was incredible. You had Jerome Opeña, who was absolutely gorgeous. Jerome Opeña was probably my favorite artist on this run. I would argue he's the definitive artist for this series. His art's absolutely gorgeous. His composition is insane. Page layout's incredible. He did the first arc and he pops up throughout the series. In my opinion, all of the major scenes were done by him and they were handled incredibly well. I would describe his art style as like incredibly hardcore. Sketchy lines, incredible depth. Huge shout out to the colorist, Chris Sotomayor. Great work. They're a wonderful team and they knocked my socks off with all of the art they were doing. It's like crazy to me to get Mark Brooks as an interior artist on an ongoing series. He did a bunch of issues for the Dark Phoenix saga. His gritty style was perfect for the series, but it's simultaneously so polished. I'd say like some of the most gorgeous like pen ultimate art in this run. Esad Ribic, need I say more? This one of the best of all time. He did the Deathlock arc, which I think was, in the scope of this book, it was pretty minor, but like the way he comes onto the page and just elevates everything, gorgeous. It's perfect. It's just perfect. It's like minimal, but it's also so polished, which is like, how do you do that? The last half of this book was done by Phil Noto, who is incredible, which is so funny where I'm like, oh yeah, you have this crazy Mark Brooks, Jerome Opeña, gritty, sketchy, gnarly lines. And then you have someone like Phil Noto who has such a polished style, so clean, so concise. It's a crazy name to include in all of these. But he's such a consistent artist throughout this whole book. He finished off the series. He's one of my favorites. This story had a really hardcore tone. So for him to come in, I thought was an interesting choice, but it worked so well because Phil Noto is such a well-rounded and diverse artist. So he made it work. Okay, so how did I like it? I absolutely loved it. I don't think this is news to anyone. If anyone is looking for another opportunity into these characters, look no further than this book. I absolutely loved it. It's a fresh take. It has heart, and it also breaks your heart, which I'm always looking for good narratives to ruin my life. All of the arcs and issues tie back to classic X-Men lore. There are stakes in this book, which is something I feel like I can't say often. I have no notes. This run was so incredible, and it showed me that the X-Men can be punk rock. Rating? 10 out of 10. Very easy rating to give. I'm bummed I waited so long to read this, so go check it out. Don't be like me. My name's Cameron. I don't just read comics. I love them. See you guys next time.